I am a villainess. 10 years ago, calling in a debt of gratitude, I forced Song Jianchuan to marry me. I forcibly tore apart the romantic bond between him and a Nyank, causing him to hate me to the bone, a hatred that lasted for 10 years. But later, when I was trapped in a flood, he used his last bit of strength to swim over alone to save me. When the flood waters surged again, he held his hands high, lifting me to the very top so I would be spared. Meanwhile, the monstrous water gradually submerged his thin lips and poured into his nose. In his final moment, Song Jianchuan spoke with a tone that sounded like both regret and relief. Wen Ning, even if you are all alone in the future, you must live on bravely. If only I had been brave enough to refuse to marry you back then, it would have been better. At the funeral, Song's parents cursed me as a calamity, saying I had caused Song Jianchuan's death. Then they wept uncontrollably, saying they never should have forced him to marry me. Everyone said I killed him, and I believed it too. On the night I left the Song family home, I submerged myself in the bathtub and drowned. But when I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Song's parents were forcing Song Jianchuan to marry me. This time, I put away all my delusions. I only hoped that all his regrets from his past life could be fulfilled in this one. I will not marry Wen Ning. Even if I have to give up the position of CEO of the Song Corporation, I will not marry her. Just as I opened my eyes, I heard that familiar voice. It gave me a sense of unreality. Turning my head to look at the determined, handsome face before me, tears wet my eyes. Wen Ning, don't think that just because you put on this pitiful look, I'll soften my heart and agree to marry you. I have someone I like, and it isn't you. Song Jianchuan looked at me with a complex expression, his voice resonant and powerful. Even Song's parents were frightened by his resolute attitude, looking somewhat at a loss. But at this moment, I actually laughed. Looking at Song Jianchuan, who was completely different from my previous life, I knew he had been reborn too. And on the very day that was the turning point of our fates. In my last life, although Song Jianchuan didn't want to marry me either, he eventually agreed helplessly under his parents' pressure. Unexpectedly, he regretted that agreement for 10 whole years. This time, I wasn't sad that he resolutely refused to marry me. Instead, I had never felt so fortunate. Fortunate that it wasn't too late for everything. Turning to look at Song's parents, I spoke calmly. Since brother Jianchuan's heart belongs to another, I won't force him. Uncle Song, Auntie Song, today, with you as witnesses, I acknowledge Jianchuan as my sworn brother. From now on, I am his family, and I won't have any thoughts I shouldn't have. Just like Song Jianchuan's powerful refusal a moment ago, my answer appeared incredibly resolved. Wiping the tear stains from the corners of my eyes, I smiled at Song Jianchuan and called him brother. He abruptly turned his head, looking at me in disbelief. The determination that had just flashed across his face instantly turned into astonishment. In the previous life, I had been shameless in my insistence on marrying him. Song's parents, feeling obligated by the help the Wen family had previously provided, forced Song Jianchuan to marry me. I got what I wanted, but his life was a living hell. During the 10 years of our marriage, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol every night. No matter how I tried to seduce him, he remained indifferent, unwilling to touch me even once. Later, I went to his parents to pressure him, claiming I wanted to continue the Song family line. Song Jianchuan hurriedly renovated a room in the house into a Buddhist prayer hall. He began to study Buddhism all day long, never stepping out. Once, I pried open his prayer hall and secretly stole the prayer beads from his wrist that he treasured like life itself. When Song Jianchuan found out, his eyes red, he begged me, "Give the beads back to me, and I'll agree to whatever you want." To this day, I remember how pitiful and helpless Song Jianchuan was in his previous life, driven into a corner by me. With a sorrowful gaze, he closed his eyes in despair and let me climb onto him. But he didn't know that the string of beads and Nyank had given him had long since been taken apart and burned by me. Seeing that I had changed my mind, Song's parents breathed a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Soon, an announcement was issued stating that I had been adopted as a goddaughter. From then on, Song Jianchuan was my brother. To appease me, they even specifically held a banquet. At the banquet, I once again saw a Nyank, the white moonlight, the love of his life, who had captivated Song Jianchuan in the previous life. Unlike me, the villainess, she wore a simple white dress, free of makeup and adornment. Standing there, she attracted far more attention than I did. Song Jianchuan frowned, stepped forward vigilantly, and blocked the space between a Nyank and me. He lowered his eyelids halfway and whispered a warning. "Today is your adoption banquet. Don't cause a scene." There was a faint trace of pleading in his tone. I smiled faintly, but my fingernails dug deep into my palm. My evil deeds were deeply rooted in Song Jianxun's heart. If I had my temper from the previous life, I absolutely would not have agreed. If he told me not to do something, I would insist on doing it. Even that flood disaster happened because I insisted on going against him, leading to the tragedy. Back then, it was our 10th wedding anniversary trip. I ignored Song Jianxun's objections and ran off alone to a deserted island. I was the one who should have died on that island, yet he stood before the Grim Reaper in my place. This time, I nodded obediently and agreed compliantly. "I know, brother, I'll stay here honestly. I won't go anywhere and I won't cause trouble." Song Jianxun looked at me with some surprise, feeling a trance-like sensation, as if he were dreaming. He opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing. The banquet began, and Song Jianxun had to leave to greet the guests. Taking advantage of the gap, Nyank walked towards me holding a glass of red wine. She stopped only a meter away from me, looking at me somewhat timidly. "Congratulations, Miss Wen." Saying this, she didn't wait for my reply and drained the red wine in her hand in one gulp. A flush instantly flashed across her pale face. No wonder Song Jianxun couldn't forget a Nyank in the previous life. That little face evoked pity in anyone who saw it. "Congratulations for what? Song Jianxun and I are just brother and sister now. The one who should be congratulated is me. He can't forget you. Surely you aren't unaware of that." I took a large gulp from my glass. The strong alcohol helped me suppress the acidity overflowing in my heart. I exhaled, blowing a breath of alcohol onto Nyank's face. She couldn't handle her liquor. She stumbled and nearly fell to the floor. Song Jianxun rushed out in a flash, crashing into my right hand. The red wine in my hand spilled all over me, ruining my carefully applied makeup. He supported Nyank, his eyes suppressing anger. "Wen Ning, how did you promise me? Didn't you say you wouldn't cause trouble?" His words, full of blame and reprimand, made it seem as if he had forgotten that I had been sitting there peacefully the whole time without making a scene. But I soon realized, who asked me to have such a long criminal record? He had absolutely no trust in me. Bullying Nyank wasn't a one-time thing. She was originally Song Jianxun's secretary, but later I forcibly demanded she run errands for me. The day before yesterday, I slapped her. Last week, I made her run all over the Southern District just to buy me a basket of soup dumplings. In the last life, the more Song Jianxun doted on her, the more insanely jealous I became, wanting to torture her. I forgot that such behavior only made their hearts connect more closely, just like now. Nyank leaned into Song Jianxun's embrace, fighting the dizziness from the alcohol to explain. "No, President Song, it was me. I drank wine and got dizzy, so I couldn't stand steady." But Song Jianxun, with a dark face, waved his hand to interrupt her. "You don't need to be afraid of her or explain for her. Wen Ning needs the courage to take responsibility for what she does herself." Seeing how nervously he protected Nyank, I squeezed my eyes shut, suppressing the surging urge to cry. I bowed to Nyank in apology. "I'm sorry, I was wrong about what happened before. I won't trouble you again in the future." The apology ended. When I looked up, I met Song Jianxun's uncertain, shifting gaze. Indescribable emotions churned in his eyes. I smiled calmly. "Is that acceptable, brother? If there's nothing else, I'll go first." Without waiting for him to speak, I turned and left. The moment my back was turned, something slid down my cheek. I didn't know if it was wine or tears. It felt like a stone was pressing on the bottom of my heart, making it hard to breathe. The next day, I returned Nyank to Song Jianxun's side. I told Song's parents and pushed my suitcase out of the Song house. Previously, to cling to Song Jianxun, I had brazenly lived in the Song family villa. In my past life, after marrying him, I didn't leave for 10 years. Now, it was finally time to go. Song's parents initially disagreed with my departure, but my attitude was resolute, so they could only sigh in the end. "Zai Ning, although we really want you to be the Song family's daughter-in-law, Jianxun he. It's okay, Uncle Song, Auntie Song. Brother will find a better partner. I think that Nyank is quite nice. If brother marries her, he will definitely be very happy. Song Jianxun, this is the last thing I can do for you." After speaking, I pushed my suitcase and prepared to leave the villa. Unexpectedly, I ran into him as soon as I turned around. Song Jianxun had just returned from the company. He looked at me deeply, the expression in his eyes hard to read. Seeing me with luggage, his frown deepened, and his voice became heavy. "It's so late. Where are you going with a suitcase? I stood obediently in front of him. No longer having that burning gaze from my past life, I appeared very calm. Brother, I want to move out. No, I don't agree. Song Jianchuan refused decisively. I was stunned for a moment. I thought he might refuse, but I didn't expect him to refuse so quickly. Just like he rejected my love in the previous life. Impossible, don't even think about it. Seeming to realize he was too agitated, Song Jianchuan coughed unconsciously. I promised your parents I would take good care of you. From now on, you live in the Song house. No one will drive you away. I looked at him with some surprise. You have to know, in the past life, he tried every method to drive me away, but I refused to go. However, thinking that we were now sworn siblings, it all seemed normal. What he loathed was my constant desire to marry him. No need, I still prefer living alone. Song Jianchuan froze, seemingly expecting that I wouldn't refuse him. After all, in the past life, I always tried every way to cling to his side, never giving up any chance to be with him. I pushed my suitcase past Song Jianchuan. Only when I walked out the door did he react. His eyes were mixed with anger, his body trembling. Wen Ning, must you force me like this? I turned back in confusion. I saw Song Jianchuan's hands clenched tightly into fists, his whole body shaking, evidently humiliated and angry to the extreme. Finally, his shoulders slumped weakly. He looked at me with dull eyes and murmured, I won't marry Nyank. Are you satisfied now? As I stared at him in astonishment, Song Jianchuan smiled scornfully, looking completely lost. You brought up Nyank in front of my parents just to get this result, didn't you? You knew clearly they wouldn't let me marry a woman who wasn't a match in social status, so you deliberately provoked them. Wen Ning, your heart is truly filthy. My mind buzzed as if thunder had struck. My heart felt as if someone had grabbed it, aching unbearably. Song Jianchuan's eyes were filled with extreme sorrow. No other emotion could be seen. No, I didn't mean that. Before I could finish, he staggered upstairs and left. Looking at his back, I suddenly felt a sense of self-loathing. Why did my words and actions always have the opposite effect? I didn't blame him. If I had to blame someone, I blamed myself for doing too many evil things in my past life. No one was willing to believe me anymore. With eyes full of tears, I gritted my teeth, turned, and left the Song family home. I found a high-end hotel to stay in, but I couldn't sleep all night. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of Song Jianchuan being swallowed by the flood in my past life appeared in my mind. The sensation of water choking the throat, I knew it well. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Startled, I bounced up from the bed. Opening the door, I found a Nyank standing outside. She was wearing a hotel maid's uniform. Seeing me, she was also slightly stunned, then said, Miss Wen, do you need the room cleaned today? I looked at her in disbelief and blurted out, Aren't you working as a secretary at Brothers' company? How did you become a hotel maid? And Nyank smiled bitterly. She shook her head but said nothing. She walked into the guest room to clean. Carelessly, she cut her finger on my eyebrow razor. Bright red blood appeared on her fingertip, and Nyank suddenly fainted to the floor without warning. I froze for a moment. Just as I was about to go over and ask what was wrong, suddenly, a massive force knocked me flying. My lower back slammed hard against the sharp corner of the table. I groaned, forcibly suppressing a scream. Song Jianchuan looked at a Nyank with a face full of nervousness. Carefully wrapping the wound with a tissue, he picked her up. When he turned to look at me, his eyes were full of disappointment and anger. So this is the reason you insisted on moving out of the Song house. Wen Ning, do the words you say have any integrity at all? I already promised you I wouldn't marry Nyank, yet you still come to torture her. Nyank has already been fired from the group and reduced to being a hotel maid. Why won't you let her go? Song Jianchuan's rage suddenly stopped. He looked at me blankly, revealing a sense of powerlessness. Looking at me, he muttered to himself, What exactly must I do for you to be satisfied? Hearing his hoarse accusations, my body trembled. I blinked my dry, stinging eyes, chuckled lightly, and looked at him indifferently. If I said none of this has anything to do with me, would you believe it? Song Jianchuan's face was cold, his eyes like ice. He slowly shook his head, finally speaking in a voice raspy to the extreme. This is the last time, Wen Ning. I hope this is the last time. Otherwise, don't blame me for disregarding the friendship between the Wen and Song families. After speaking, he turned and left without any hesitation. I clutched the throbbing bruise on my lower back, feeling as if all strength had been drained from my body. Watching his retreating figure, the tears held in my eyes could no longer be contained and fell. He still wouldn't believe me. Perhaps leaving was my best choice. At least I wouldn't hurt him or the person he loved most anymore. I packed my luggage and checked out of the hotel room. I stumbled into a ride-share car and went to the airport. While the car was waiting at a red light, I happened to encounter Song Jian-chuan's car. He saw me, turned his head calmly, and avoided my gaze. He rolled up the car window, separating us into two worlds until he could no longer see me. After watching the ride-share car turn and leave, a sudden unease rose in Song Jian-chuan's heart. The right turn led only to the airport. What was Wen Ning going to the airport for? But soon, his attention was drawn to Nayank, who was gradually waking up. He looked at Nayank nervously and comforted her softly. "Don't be afraid, Nayank. We'll be at the hospital soon." Stepping on the gas, Song Jian-chuan carried Nayank out of the car and rushed into the emergency room. After an examination, the doctor prescribed some simple medication. "Family and patient, don't be too nervous. It's just ordinary hemophobia. Taking some medicine to control it will be fine. The wound on the finger isn't deep either. It will heal in a few days." Song Jian-chuan froze, and Nayank also whispered an explanation. "I said this has nothing to do with Miss Wen. It's my own physical condition. And leaving the Song group was also my own reason." Hearing in Nayank's words, Song Jian-chuan felt as if he had been poured over with cement, solidifying on the spot. His legs felt like they were filled with lead. He couldn't take a step. If none of this had anything to do with Wen Ning, then how had he treated her? A trace of apology appeared on Nayank's face as she continued. "Also, regarding the last banquet, that was my own fault too. I drank too fast, and the alcohol went to my head, so I wasn't careful and almost fell." Song Jian-chuan stood stiffly in place. He swallowed with difficulty, finding it felt like blades were scraping his throat. Wen Ning had clearly explained it to him, but he had chosen not to believe her. He had even mocked her and hurt her with vicious words. Remembering Wen Ning's dry, stinging eyes just now, devoid of any emotion, his heart felt like it skipped a beat. "Why?" His voice was very soft at first, then suddenly became very agitated. He turned his head to look straight at Nayank. "Why didn't you tell me these things sooner?" And Nayank pursed her lips, stunned for a moment, then smiled self-deprecatingly. "I said it, you were the one who didn't believe it." Song Jian-chuan's body suddenly shook, and even the rims of his eyes became frighteningly red. But he forced himself to calm down and said to Nayank, "Let's go. Since you're fine, I'll take you back." And Nayank shook her head and replied faintly, "What you should do most right now is go apologize to Miss Wen. After all, you hurt her very deeply." Song Jian-chuan's eyes suddenly lost focus, and Nayank added another blow. She lowered her head, her voice carrying sadness. "You should learn to see your heart clearly and figure out who you really love." After speaking, Nayank turned and left alone. Song Jian-chuan drove home in a daze. In the bedroom of the villa, he suddenly saw a gift box that had inexplicably appeared on the table. Opening it, he saw a string of prayer beads inside. He paused for a moment, then laughed aloud, carefully holding them in his hand. They were almost identical to the ones Nayank had given him in the previous life. Just then, he completely froze. He remembered everything that had happened since his rebirth. Wen Ning seemed to have become a different person. She no longer pestered him, no longer tried every method to be intimate with him. She even took the initiative to apologize to Nayank and proactively proposed moving out of the Song house. A sudden fear rose in his heart. Could it be that Wen Ning had been reborn too? He remembered that in the previous life, after he died, his soul lingered around Wen Ning. He saw her cry until she fainted several times at his funeral, and saw her drown herself in the bathtub with death in her heart. He had shouted countless times, trying to stop Wen Ning from committing suicide, but every time, he could only helplessly pass through her body. Until after Wen Ning died, and he returned again to the day he agreed to marry her. For the first time, he realized that Wen Ning seemed to have changed. Song Jian-chuan felt as if all the blood in his body had congealed. It was agonizing. He tightly gripped the prayer beads. These couldn't have been given to him by Nayank. The only person who knew about this was him and the Wen Ning from the previous life. Song Jian-chuan rushed out of the house, got into his car, and hurried back to the hotel where Wen Ning had stayed. Passing through 7 red lights along the way, he only waited for one. But when he arrived at the hotel, he learned from the clerk that Wen Ning had already checked out. Song Jian-chuan irritably lit a cigarette. Leaning against the car door, he dialed Wen Ning's phone again. But on the other end, there was always the cold notification voice. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable." Even on the social media apps he used to detest, he sent over 10 messages. In front of every message, there was always a glaring red exclamation mark. Song Jianchuan suddenly laughed. Since becoming the CEO of the Song Group, he had never felt so helpless. No, he should say that every time this feeling of powerlessness appeared, it was because of Wen Ning. He thought of their 10-year marriage in the previous life. He thought of their reunion in this life after rebirth. Song Jianchuan had never felt such an urgent desire to see her. Suddenly, he remembered seeing Wen Ning on the way to the hospital. He got back in the car and drove toward the airport. Arriving at the airport, Song Jianchuan hurriedly pulled some strings. Sure enough, he found footage of Wen Ning boarding a plane on the surveillance cameras. Seeing this scene, his eyes blurred. He had never felt how important Wen Ning was to him before. He always thought the person he liked should be a Nyank. Only now, he finally seemed to sober up. He had to find her. After getting off the plane and transferring to a bus, sitting for a full 6 hours, I finally made it back to my hometown. First, I weeded my parents' graves and offered incense. Finally, I pushed my luggage back to the old family house. Looking at the dilapidated, dusty old house in front of me, I smiled helplessly. In my past life, I was truly unfilial. After brazenly clinging to Song Jianchuan, I even forgot about matters back home. Not only did I neglect to repair the old house, but I rarely even visited my parents' graves. Just as I was feeling somewhat at a loss, a surprised voice came from behind. "Ah Ning, is that you?" I subconsciously turned around and saw a neighbor with an honest face. Although we hadn't seen each other for many years, I recognized him at a glance. "It's me, Brother Ah Huan. I'm back." Zhang Ziohuan happily invited me to stay at his house for the night. He even talked about many events from our childhood. When I saw a young woman walk in with a child, I said in surprise, "Brother Ah Huan, you're married." Zhang Ziohuan nodded shyly, happily held the newcomer's hand, and embraced the child. "We're all this old, of course we have to get married. What about you? Didn't you say you went out to get married? How come you came back alone?" A look of envy faintly appeared in his eyes, but vanished in an instant. I waved my hand, pretending to be carefree. I didn't like the guy, so after thinking about it, I decided not to marry. Zhang Ziohuan didn't mind and persuaded me a bit more, saying if there was a suitable partner, he would introduce him to me. That day, rarely for me, I slept very late. Early the next morning, I was woken up by noise next door. Going out to look, I found Zhang Ziohuan leading the neighbors in repairing my house and cleaning up. Seeing me come out, he scratched his head shyly. "Ah Ning, did we disturb your sleep? Didn't you say you wouldn't be leaving this time? I thought I'd renovate the house for you. Don't worry, it won't cost much money." I waved my hand expansively, not minding at all. After leaving the Song family, Song's parents, afraid I wouldn't live well, sent me money almost every day and told me not to treat myself poorly. Even if I refused, they deposited it directly into my bank card. I wasn't short of money, so I even asked Zhang Ziohuan to renovate it a bit nicer for me. To decorate the new house, I specifically went into the city to shop for many small items. While I was haggling with a shop owner to save 10 yuan, a low, husky voice suddenly came from behind me. "Only half a month apart, and you're living so hard. Didn't Dad and Mom give you money? Why are you being so frugal?" I didn't turn around, but my body went rigid instantly. I could never forget Song Jianchuan's voice even in death. I also didn't expect to meet him here, or rather, to be specifically tracked down by him. I subconsciously pulled my hat brim lower to cover most of my face, wanting to leave quietly. But the next second, a powerful arm firmly gripped my wrist. My whole body was pulled into a warm embrace. The familiar scent of pine filled my nose. "I've found you, and you still want to run." I deliberately lowered my voice, pretending not to know him. "Sir, you have the wrong person. I don't know you." Hearing this, Song Jianchuan chuckled lightly. Just as he was about to speak, someone suddenly shoved him aside and shielded me behind them. "Ah Ning, are you okay? Did this guy do anything to you?" Zhang Ziohuan had finished buying the necessary renovation materials. I pulled on his sleeve, hurriedly urging him to leave. "Let's go, Brother Ah Huan." Stunned for a long while, Song Jianchuan finally reacted when he saw me sitting on the motorcycle. He sneered repeatedly, his voice carrying a trace of anger. "Wen Ning, aren't you going to explain to me who this man is?" I shrank my neck and didn't speak, just blindly urging Zhang Ziohuan to leave. When Song Jianchuan lunged over preparing to grab me, I dodged. But in the struggle, my hat fell off. I covered my face with my hands, burying my head in the sand. Song Jianchuan's exasperated laugh reached my ears. "What are you still pretending for at this point? Fortunately, Zhang Ziohyun started the bike in time and left. Looking at the figure gradually disappearing behind me, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. After returning to the old house, I arranged the room. Suddenly, Zhang Ziohyun looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. I looked up in surprise and asked him proactively, "Brother Ah Hyun, just say whatever you want to say." He didn't speak, just looked strangely behind me. Before I could turn around, that voice that made my whole body tense came to my ears again. "This house is really nice. It's a good place to grow old with you." Hearing the voice, I whipped my head around. I saw Song Jianchuan standing outside the door, walking towards me step by step. Startled, I hurriedly hid behind Zhang Ziohyun. "Brother Ah Hyun, drive him away quickly. He's a bad guy." Zhang Ziohyun stood there, at a loss. Hearing this sentence, Song Jianchuan laughed out of anger. He walked over and dragged me out with one hand. Seeing me, the imposing manner he just had was swept away. His voice was very soft and gentle, carrying a trace of grievance. "Wen Ning, you disappeared for 16 days. I looked for you for 16 days. He looked at me pitifully, just like his helplessness in the previous life when I forced myself upon him. In that instant, my heart seemed to stop beating. Yet in the next second, it beat frantically, as if it wanted to jump out of my chest. I didn't know what he had experienced in these short 16 days. But since I had decided to leave him and not be a plague upon him, I wouldn't stay by his side anymore. Breaking free from Song Jianchuan's hand, I looked at him with a cold face. "What are you doing here?" I recall I already moved out of the Song house and have absolutely no relationship with you, Song Jianchuan. My tough tone made the rims of his eyes turn red instantly. He was like a pitiful, helpless puppy, wagging his tail in front of me. "I recall I didn't agree to you moving out of the Song house. And even if you move out, the relationship between you and me can never be broken. Wen Ning, you clearly know everything. Why pretend to be indifferent and even leave me? Just because I saved your life, can't you forgive the mistakes I once made?" My pupils constricted sharply at his words. I didn't know how he discovered all this. He saved my life. That only happened in the flood in the previous life. I gritted my teeth, retorting stubbornly, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand." Before the sentence was finished, Song Jianchuan revealed the string of prayer beads on his wrist. There was a faint smile on his face. "You left this thing for me, right?" I acted as if I remembered something, realizing I had done something foolish. Lifting my head, I kept up my stubbornness. "No, and Nyank gave you that." Song Jianchuan suddenly reached out and rubbed my head. His voice carried a trace of indulgence and helplessness. "You're always like this, liking to go against me. Whatever I say, you insist on denying. Wen Ning, when I told you to be braver, did you never take it to heart? What would happen if you bravely admitted everything? You aren't the Wen Ning of the past anymore, and I am not the Song Jianchuan of the past." I narrowed my eyes comfortably, but my heart was beating wildly with every sentence he spoke. Finally, remembering him submerged by the flood, I ruthlessly pushed him away and jumped behind Zhang Ziohyun. Frowning, I looked fiercely at Song Jianchuan. "I am just your foster sister now. Song Jianchuan, please have some basic morals. Do you want to make a move, even on your sister? Also, I already have a boyfriend. Brother Ah Hyun, drive him away." Zhang Ziohyun looked foolishly at me, then at the gradually cooling Song Jianchuan. Suddenly, a little kid ran in and hugged Zhang Ziohyun's leg. "Papa, Mama said to call you to eat, and tell Auntie when to come over too." Seeing Zhang Ziohyun flee in defeat, leaving me alone to face Song Jianchuan's face, smiling out of extreme anger, I immediately felt somewhat uneasy. Like a mouse cornered by a greedy cat. "Wen Ning, you've really grown a temper. Now you're using a married man as a shield to deal with me." For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Fortunately, Zhang Ziohyun came back quickly to call me to eat. The bad thing was, he also invited Song Jianchuan. Just as I wanted to refuse for Song Jianchuan, he had already seen through my thoughts and spoke first. "Then I'll trouble you." I ate the meal feeling uncomfortable all over. Song Jianchuan put food in my bowl again and again. Given the occasion, I couldn't flare up. Until after the meal, I dragged Song Jianchuan away. I looked at him impatiently and shouted, "I've already left you. What do I have to do for you to let me go?" A sentence that seemed familiar instantly made Song Jianchuan freeze in place. His face held a nearly abject plea as he looked at me carefully. "Wen Ning, I know that in the past I did many things that betrayed your love, but I won't anymore. I've only now discovered that you exist in my heart and it has always been you. If it were before, I would probably be ecstatic. But now, as soon as I thought of the events of the previous life, My whole person felt out of control. My face twisted, and my heart felt as if it were covered by a shadow. What is the point of having me? I am just a vicious and dirty villainess. Being with me will only harm you. As my voice fell, a tear flashed in my eye. I wiped away the tear and left resolutely. After rejecting Song Jianchuan and leaving again, I hid at home. I locked myself in my room all day, never seeing the sun. Even my daily meals were delivered by Zhang Ziohuan. Song Jianchuan didn't leave either. He rented a small room from Zhang Ziohuan. The room he chose happened to overlook my bedroom. At first, I didn't know. Until one sunny day, the moment I opened the curtains, I saw Song Jianchuan more than 10 meters away. The excitement in his eyes was clear to see. He even waved at me. But in the next second, I frowned and closed the curtains. In the brief moment of closing the curtains, Song Jianchuan's expression instantly changed from excitement to disappointment. Occasionally, when the wind blew the curtains up, I could see him standing on the balcony outside the window, gazing deeply at me. During the days I hid from Song Jianchuan, many people came to persuade me. The Zhang Ziohuan couple next door, Song's parents, and even a Nyank. I let them all into the house and chatted happily for a long time. The only one I hid from was Song Jianchuan. Many days passed like this. One night, a heavy rain suddenly came. A roaring thunderclap seemed as if it wanted to shatter the sky. The rapid lightning flashes almost illuminated the black night sky. Hearing the crashing sound of the rain, I quietly peered through the curtains and saw Song Jianchuan on the opposite balcony holding an umbrella, yet soaked through. He was still looking at me. Even an inadvertent movement of the curtains could make his eyes light up. Suddenly, I felt the ground seem to shake. Then I heard Song Jianchuan's terrified roar. "Wen Ning, wait for me. I'm coming to save you right now." My senses seemed to lag. By the time I realized an earthquake was happening, the walls had already cracked and showed signs of collapsing. Windows shattered, and the curtains tore apart. Even the stairs downstairs broke in half. Smoke swirled and rubble flew. In the black night sky, I vaguely saw Song Jianchuan running towards me at full speed. His face was written with terror and panic. His mouth opened and closed incessantly, muttering to himself, "Don't let anything happen. Wen Ning, you absolutely cannot have anything happen to you. Trust me, I will protect you." But I shook my head violently as if triggered. In the previous life, I was the one who killed him. Could it be that in this life, I couldn't escape such a fate either? "Song Jianchuan, don't come over. I don't need you to save me." But he had already braved the falling rocks and dust, charging into the courtyard. Although I couldn't see his face clearly, Song Jianchuan's laugh still reached my ears. "If I don't save you, should I watch you die helplessly? Wen Ning, I couldn't do it in the last life, and I still can't do it in this one." Song Jianchuan climbed to the broken staircase. The wall in front suddenly collapsed, smashing onto his right hand. I closed my eyes in despair, speaking no more. I could only pray slowly. I didn't know when it happened, but the sound of rapid breathing came to my ears. I opened my eyes, but my body had already begun to fall uncontrollably. A figure threw himself at me, protecting me in his arms, using his body to support a small, narrow space. With a loud boom, my whole body slammed heavily onto the ground. Amidst the dizziness, a drop of liquid suddenly fell on my cheek. In the dim space, I couldn't see clearly what it was. Just as I wanted to reach out and wipe it off, Song Jianchuan's voice came to my ears. "Don't move." My arm stopped subconsciously in midair. I heard Song Jianchuan continue. "Wen Ning, you must learn to be brave. Even if you are all alone, you must live on bravely." If only back then I had seen myself clearly earlier, bravely accepted you, and married you, it would have been better. Immediately after drop of liquid fell continuously onto my face. I wasn't stupid. I instantly understood that this was blood. It was Song Jianchuan's blood. I broke down instantly, my voice screaming heart-wrenchingly. "No, you can't die. Song Jianchuan, without my permission, you cannot die. If you really die, I will never, ever, ever forgive you." Why? I had clearly decided to leave you. Why did you still come to save me? It's all my fault. It was my evil deeds that implicated you. Tears fell continuously along with my voice. But in the narrow space, only my voice remained. I didn't know how long passed before I finally heard Zhang Ziohuan shouting outside. I hurried to call for help, until the light shone into the space. Countless massive stones and walls were moved off Song Jianchuan's body. I only had a back injury, but Song Jianchuan was sent to emergency care. This time, I begged bitterly before the Buddha. I, a humble devotee, am willing to trade my entire life for his peace and joy. so that his wishes may be fulfilled. I prayed for him for 7 days and 7 nights, without eating or drinking. Through my hazy vision, it seemed as if I saw him stepping through the white light, appearing before me once again.